It was supposed to last 2 weeks. It lasted 6 days. In that time, normal, psychologically screened college students became guards who humiliated, degraded, and psychologically tortured their fellow students, and prisoners who broke down, suffered emotional crises, and lost their sense of identity. None of them were bad people when they arrived. The situation did it. That, at least, was the conclusion Philip Zimbardo drew from the Stanford prison experiment of 1971, and for decades it was taught in psychology courses around the world as a landmark demonstration of situational power over individual character. The setup was elaborate. 24 young male volunteers, screened for psychological stability and paid $15 a day, were randomly assigned to the roles of guard or prisoner. Prisoners were arrested at home by actual Palo Alto police officers, processed at a real station, blindfolded, and brought to the mock prison in the basement of Stanford's psychology building. They were stripped, given smocks and numbers instead of clothes and names. Guards wore mirrored sunglasses and khaki uniforms and were given batons. Zimbardo himself took on the role of prison superintendent. The dehumanization process began immediately. Guards were told only that they needed to maintain order and that prisoners had no rights beyond basic physical needs. They were not given specific instructions about how to do this. Within hours, they were improvising a range of humiliating practices: forced exercises, arbitrary rule enforcement, sleep deprivation, denial of bathroom privileges, strip searches. Some guards became particularly sadistic, seemingly enjoying the power. The cruelest behavior tended to happen at night, when the guards believed they weren't being observed. On the second day, prisoners rebelled, barricading themselves in cells and taunting the guards. The guards responded with fire extinguishers and intensified psychological tactics. The rebellion was crushed. And then something happened that Zimbardo found especially revealing. The prisoners stopped trying to escape or resist. They began to inhabit their prisoner identity. They referred to themselves by their numbers. They reported their fellow prisoners' misbehavior to the guards. Some broke down completely. One had to be released on the first day due to acute distress. Others followed in subsequent days. Zimbardo himself became absorbed in the role of prison superintendent, a development that later critics would seize on as a significant methodological flaw. He did not stop the experiment as an objective scientist observing disturbing behavior. He was running a prison. It was only when his future wife, Christina Maslach, visited on the 6th day and was horrified by what she witnessed that Zimbardo agreed to end it early. His interpretation was clear. The situation, specifically the roles, the power differentials, the institutional context, had transformed normal people into authoritarian abusers and helpless victims. Character mattered less than context. This was the Lucifer effect, the title of Zimbardo's 2007 book. The idea that under the right situational conditions, virtually anyone can be induced to do evil. The experiment's legacy became complicated after 2018, when archive recordings and interviews revealed that Zimbardo and his research staff had actively instructed guards to be tough and had shaped many of the behaviors that occurred rather than simply observing them emerge naturally. Several prisoners later said their distress was partly performed for the cameras. The methodological criticisms are real and substantial. But here's what remains true. Real prisons do produce real dehumanization. Real institutions do corrupt real behavior. Soldiers in real wartime situations commit atrocities that were unimaginable to their pre-war selves. The power of roles, uniforms, authority gradients, and dehumanizing systems over individual behavior is not in scientific doubt. It's been documented in the real world too many times. What the Stanford prison experiment offered was a dramatic illustration of mechanisms that operate in the world. Zimbardo himself drew practical lessons from his research. Institutions must be designed with checks on the abuse of power. Individuals within authority structures must be trained to recognize and resist situational pressures toward cruelty and heroism. The willingness to challenge unjust situations must be cultivated as a social value. He called it heroic imagination, the mental rehearsal of standing up even when conformity and obedience make it costly. The Stanford prison experiment's most important lesson may not be about human darkness. It may be about the responsibility of design. The systems we build and the roles we create shape who people become inside them. Subscribe to Psychology. Theories Explained for more psychology breakdowns every week.